Hello, my name is Adam. I am a student of English, and this is my story. I want to tell you about my life in London and my fantastic teacher. You can read my story and learn English with me. Lesson 1, My Journey to London. I go to London on a beautiful summer day, traveling on a train. There are two ladies sitting opposite me. I don't know them, but from their conversation, I know they are foreigners. I don't understand much of what they are saying, but I know they speak English. I also want to speak English, but I am a beginner and don't know many words. However, this is an opportunity for me to practice. I decide to try to speak to the ladies. I say some sentences in my basic English, and they understand me. I speak slowly, and although I don't know many words, the ladies are kind and patient. I manage to have a simple conversation with them. I tell them that I want to learn English, and they are happy to hear that. They tell me they are from England and are traveling home from a conference. We speak for about 10 minutes, and then it's time for me to get off the train. As I thank them for talking with me, they give me their address and phone number. They invite me to visit them in England if I want to, and then we say goodbye. This is how my journey in learning English begins. After this meeting, I decide to work on my English skills more. I translate texts and watch films in English, dedicating 2 hours almost every day to my studies. In 6 months, I am able to speak quite well, which is great, but I want to know more. I decide to go to London to study English. Studying in London. In London, I choose a school that I believe is good, and I really look forward to my first lesson. The lesson is on Monday. On my first day at school, I meet my teacher and the other students in the class. My teacher is a young lady, and she is very nice. She asks everybody to introduce themselves and say where they are from, and then the lesson starts. Our teacher asks us how we studied English before and what we think is the best method to learn it. I tell her that I like translating songs and other texts, but I am unsure what the best method is. She explains that she will teach us a very effective method based on using the language. Our teacher tells us that we won't have to study from textbooks. Instead, we will immerse ourselves in the language. This is great for me since I don't like studying from books. We discuss what we should focus on when learning a new language. Our teacher emphasizes that languages are for communication. They help us express and understand ideas. Therefore, when learning a new language, the best way is to use it for exchanging ideas. This is what we will do most of the time in our course. Unfortunately, many students spend a lot of time memorizing new words or learning grammar rules without using English for speaking. They study the language but don't use it much. Of course, learning new words and grammar is important, but during this course, I will show you a simple and effective way to learn them. Lesson 2, How to Learn Words. On Tuesday, I go to school again. One of the students asks an interesting question: what is the best way to learn new words? Our teacher responds that there are many things we can do to learn new words. She shares that statistically, the most effective way to learn new words is through reading. When people read while learning a new language, they learn twice as fast as those who don't read. It's recommended to read for at least 30 minutes every day. She explains what we should do to maximize our gains from reading. First, it's crucial that the book or text we read is interesting to us. Enjoying what we read is important, whether it's a nice story or useful information for our job or hobby. We shouldn't read texts that aren't engaging. It's also beneficial to choose texts where we know most of the words. If we encounter too many unfamiliar words, we can get frustrated. The goal is to enjoy everything we do while using English. When we find a new word we don't understand, we should look it up in a dictionary, then continue reading without worrying about writing it down or memorizing it. The focus should be on understanding the text. Reading has another great advantage. When we read, we learn new words and see how each word connects to others in a sentence. This helps us understand how to link words correctly. This way of learning new words is very effective. Give it a try, and you will see how fast you can learn new words. Then we continue with the lesson, discussing the situation in England and the best jobs for students. This is beneficial for me because I want to work after class. I ask other students if they know where I can find a job, and they tell me I should go to a job center. The job center offers many jobs for students, which makes me happy because I now know where to look for work. Finding a job. When my day at school finishes, I go to the job center. Unsure of what jobs I can do, I ask the lady there what the best job for a student is. She informs me that they have some good options, such as being a cleaner or a waiter in a cafe. I express my concern about having no experience in these roles. However, she assures me that my English is good enough to work at the cafe, where the training is not difficult, and I will have more opportunities to practice speaking English compared to being a cleaner. She tells me I can start my job on Thursday, which is great because I'm excited about having a job where I can practice my English. Lesson 3: How to learn pronunciation. On Wednesday, I return to school. There's one student in the class who is quieter than the others. He is from South Korea. When our teacher asks if we have any questions, he expresses that he has a significant problem with pronunciation. He knows his pronunciation is not very good, but he doesn't know how to improve it. Despite reading and watching films in English frequently and understanding well, he wants to enhance his speaking skills. He asks if there is something he can do to improve his pronunciation. When my teacher hears this, she responds, "Okay, I will share some insights about pronunciation and how to practice it. I will also teach you a great technique that can help all of you improve." She explains that when we speak, we must move our mouths and use the muscles involved in speech. The issue arises when students use these muscles in the same way they do in their native language, leading to different pronunciations compared to native speakers. This is common among English learners. Almost everyone has slightly different pronunciations. While it's usually not a significant problem since people can understand you, you can still work on improving your pronunciation. The technique of shadowing. There is a great technique that can help: shadowing. This technique is simple. You copy the sounds you hear immediately after hearing them. Children learn their first language by copying their parents repeatedly until their pronunciation is perfect. You can learn English pronunciation in the same way. To practice shadowing, take a video or audio recording that is not too fast and that you understand well. Listen and copy what you hear. That's all there is to it. Our teacher also mentions that shadowing is helpful when preparing for a presentation in English, allowing you to get your pronunciation as close as possible to that of native speakers. You can find a quiet place to practice shadowing for about 10 minutes before your presentation. This technique is intriguing to me. I haven't heard of it before. Joining sports activities. After the lesson, I go to the school reception and ask if there are any sports activities available. I would like to play some sports in England. The lady at the reception informs me that there is a table tennis team and a football team, with the football team training today at 5 o'clock. I am thrilled because sports are very important in my life. I attend the football team training and meet players from various countries, including Brazil, Japan, Russia, Spain, Argentina, and Italy. I enjoy the training and feel happy that my time in England is starting well. I have a great teacher and some new friends from the football team. Plus, I'm starting my job tomorrow. Lesson 4. How to practice speaking. On Thursday, I return to school. We have a new student in our class named Monica, who is from Italy. At the beginning of the lesson, my teacher asks her how her life is. The teacher knows Monica from a year ago when she attended a beginner class for 2 weeks during the summer holiday. When Monica speaks, her English is beautiful, her pronunciation is very good, and she is very fluent. My teacher is delighted and asks, "Monica, where did you learn English so well? You speak very fluently. What school did you go to?" Monica replies, "I didn't go to school. I learned English at home using the advice and techniques you taught us last summer. I did a lot of reading, shadowing, and thinking aloud. I try to think more in English than in Italian. This is how I improve my English. The 2 weeks I spent in your class last summer helped me a lot. You showed me the way, and I knew exactly how to work on my English every day. That's why I wanted to come back to your class again, because 1 year ago I was a beginner, and now I can speak English. I want to learn from you again." My teacher is very happy when she hears these words and thanks Monica for sharing her experience. It is all very interesting for me. I already know about the importance of reading in the shadowing technique, but Monica also mentions thinking aloud, which I don't understand. So, I ask our teacher, what is thinking aloud? Understanding thinking aloud. Our teacher explains, it is a very simple and powerful technique, but you need to have strong motivation to learn English to benefit from it. For some people, this technique might seem a little crazy. However, when you start to think aloud, your English can improve very quickly. I respond, I have a strong motivation. I don't care if the technique is crazy, if it helps, I want to learn it. Can you teach us this technique? Okay, it's actually very simple. You usually think in your native language all day, every day. That's normal. Now you can start thinking in English instead of your native language. When you begin thinking in English, you can think aloud, which means you say aloud what you think. I say, it looks very simple. You mention that it's a powerful technique. Why is it powerful? Monica's experience. Our teacher suggests I ask Monica, who has used this technique for a year, to share her insights. Monica is happy to speak about her experience. She says, when I started with this technique, it wasn't easy. I began with very simple sentences. For example, I can speak English. It's good that I can speak English. I want to be better, and I need to practice every day. I realized that the sentences I thought in Italian were often long and complicated. I couldn't express exactly what I was saying in Italian in English. I had to find a simpler form. Thinking in simple English was the hardest part at first, but after some time, I got used to it. Then, something interesting happened. I met a man from Australia who was on holiday in Italy. I was still a beginner, but we started to speak English. I could see that I was able to speak with him without major problems. My sentences were still simple and short, but because I had practiced them many times before while thinking aloud, I was able to speak without having to translate from Italian to English, as I used to. After meeting the man from Australia, I started using thinking aloud even more. This technique helped me greatly and improved my ability to express my ideas. I still use it every day. It is really a powerful technique. Our teacher thanks Monica for sharing her experience with thinking aloud. I decide to adopt this technique because I also want to improve my speaking skills. When you want to speak English fluently, think aloud. Lesson 5. How to learn grammar. After school, I go to the cafe where my job training starts. I'm unsure of what to expect since I have never worked at a cafe before. When I arrive, I am pleasantly surprised. It's a modern cafe that sells coffee, tea, chocolate cakes, and sandwiches. My boss is only 25 years old but has been working at the cafe for over 2 years. She has a lot of experience and knows everything perfectly. She shows me how to prepare coffee, wash the dishes, and deal with customers. It's all new for me, and I remember only about 20% of what she tells me. However, she lets me try the work and corrects me when I make mistakes. She is very friendly, and I learn quickly. After my first day at work, I feel very tired from learning many new things, but I'm happy to have a job. The next day is Friday, and I go to school again. One student asks an interesting question. Sometimes when I speak, I'm not sure if I'm speaking correctly. I'm not sure if I'm using correct grammar. Can you help me? What should I do if I want to learn grammar? Approaches to learning grammar. Our teacher responds, "Thank you for your question." There are 2 groups of students. Some study English to speak, while others study to pass an exam. Each group requires a different approach. First, I will discuss those who need English for speaking. If this is your case, you don't have to study grammar a lot. When you learned your native language, you also learned it without focusing on grammar. You can learn English grammar naturally by using the language. The best way to learn grammar naturally is through reading. Books are written in good grammar, and when you read, you learn grammar in the context of entire sentences. I also recommend shadowing. When you do shadowing, you practice correct grammar naturally without trying to memorize anything. You simply copy sentences with correct grammar. The second group consists of students studying English to pass an exam. If you belong to this group, I recommend studying specifically for the exam. It might be helpful to get versions of past exams if available and practice with them. Of course, your exam will be a little different, but the structure is usually the same or very similar. From my point of view, the versions of the exam from the past years are good training materials. Then I recommend going to the exam only when your results in the training materials are such that you could pass the exam successfully. Did I answer your question? Yes, thank you, says the student. This is good news. I don't like studying grammar. I learn English because I want to be able to speak. I don't need to pass any exam. I'm happy that I don't have to study grammar much in the afternoon and I go to my work. It is my second day and I can already do a lot of things by myself, but my boss helps me whenever I need it. I see that my work is not very difficult. Also, I can practice English when I speak to our customers. When you want to have good grammar, read a lot. Lesson 6: How to test your English. It is Monday again and I go to my school. Our teacher asks us what we did during the weekend. I say that I was at work on Saturday. I say that I can already do my work quite well. I say that I am happy when I can speak to our customers. When I speak, one of the girls in the class asks me, what happened to your voice? You sound very different from what we heard last week. Your pronunciation is very good. I smile and I say thank you. I tried to do shadowing on Saturday evening after my work, and for all of Sunday I tried to speak like a native speaker. I know that it is still not perfect, but I also noticed a big change in my pronunciation. Our teacher asks if anybody else tried to practice shadowing. 3 students raised their hands. One of them is the student from South Korea. He also likes this technique. One student says that she tried the technique, but her mouth hurt a lot after 5 minutes of shadowing and she had to stop. She also says that she wasn't always able to repeat everything. Sometimes it was hard for her to keep up with the speed of the recording. Our teacher says thank you for trying out this technique. If you do shadowing for the first time and your mouth hurts after 5 minutes, it means that you are doing it correctly. Your muscles need to be trained to this new way of speaking. It is like going to the gym for the first time. Your muscles can hurt if they are not trained. If your mouth's muscles hurt, you can take a break after 5 minutes and continue a bit later. With every 5 minutes of practice, your pronunciation should be a little bit better. Shadowing has also other advantages. You practice the correct pronunciation in English, and you also practice other things such as intonation, rhythm, and connecting words and whole sentences. I know that at the beginning the recording can sometimes be too fast. If this happens, you can repeat only the first or the last word in the sentence. With practice you will be able to repeat more. I agree that it is true. On Saturday when I started with shadowing, it was quite difficult for me, yet by Sunday evening it was quite easy to repeat what I heard. Our teacher asks other students if they know how many words they know in English. It is interesting to see that nobody knows. We know that we are intermediate students, but we don't know how many words we know. I want to know how many words I know. I do the test immediately. I see that I know 2,100 words in English. Most of the students know between 2,000 and 2,200 words. Only Monica and the boy from South Korea know 2,500 Words Lesson 7 How to Handle Mistakes On Tuesday I go to school again. One student asks our teacher an interesting question. She says, I would like to practice speaking with people around me, but I am afraid of making mistakes. I don't want to look stupid. Can you help me? Our teacher says making mistakes is a very interesting topic. There are a lot of opinions on it. I want to show you what I believe is the best approach. I have a lot of experience with this because I also learn new languages. I still continue doing it. For example, now I am learning Spanish. When I speak Spanish, I don't care if I make mistakes or not. The reason why I don't care about mistakes is simple. When I learned my native language, I didn't care about making mistakes either, so why should I care now? My main goal when I use any language is to express my ideas. That is all I know. That when I read a lot, speak and do shadowing, my Spanish will be better and better. I know this may sound incredibly simple, but in my opinion, this is what I have found after many years of both teaching and learning languages. It works very well for me and many of my students. When I speak, I concentrate solely on speaking. I know 1,500 words in Spanish, which is about the level of a 2-year-old child. 2-year-old children make a lot of mistakes when they speak, but they don't care about those mistakes. They continue using their native language. By the time they are 3 years old, they make very few mistakes, and by 4, they speak very well with hardly any errors. Embracing mistakes. You should adopt the same attitude. Most of you know about 2,000 words, so it's absolutely okay to make mistakes from time to time. As you continue using English, you will make fewer and fewer mistakes. It is not possible to improve without making mistakes. When you practice English, it is okay not to be perfect. Perfection comes with practice. Anyone who starts learning English begins at the same level, level 0. Learning languages is akin to learning to play a musical instrument. It requires training. When you first start, it's not perfect, and making mistakes is normal. Consider it a necessary part of your learning process. If you didn't go through this period of making mistakes, you wouldn't be able to reach higher levels. By continuing to engage in what you want to learn, mistakes will gradually be eliminated. If you want to make fewer mistakes, do a lot of reading and shadowing. When you read, try reading aloud. This can help you make fewer mistakes in real conversations. Focus only on exchanging ideas. Don't worry about making mistakes when you speak. You are practicing transforming your thoughts into words. You have other activities for learning grammar and vocabulary, so don't concern yourself with that right now. Remember, everyone who learns a foreign language makes mistakes from time to time, even famous people, CEOs of large companies, or politicians. When you listen to these individuals on TV, you'll notice they don't worry about mistakes. They focus on what is important, expressing their ideas. You should do the same. Does this make sense? One girl responds, "Yes, thank you. If I don't want to make mistakes, I will do a lot of reading and shadowing." Lesson 8. How to remember words. On Wednesday, I returned to school. At the beginning of the lesson, one student says, "I started to read more, and I feel it is good for me. I can see how my grammar is improving, but I have a problem. When I read, I look up a new word in the dictionary and then continue reading. Sometimes, When I see the same word again just 10 minutes later, I don't remember it and have to look it up again. Can you help me remember words better? Our teacher responds, that's an interesting question. It's absolutely normal not to remember a new word immediately. Usually, you will need to look up the word 5 times before you remember it. There are also words you may have to look up 10 or 15 times, especially verbs. When we learn a new word, it goes through phases. Only when you reach the last phase do you remember the word very well. There are 5 phases in total. Let's take a look at them. First phase, you see the word for the first time and don't know its meaning, so you look it up in the dictionary. Second phase, you see the word again and recognize that you've encountered it before, but you still don't remember its meaning, so you look it up again. Third phase, you see the word again and have a sense of what it could mean, but you're not sure, e.g., you know it's some kind of object, animal, or verb. Fourth phase, you know what the word means when you see it, but you can't recall it when you want to use it. At this point, the word is in your passive vocabulary. Fifth phase, you can now use the word correctly when you speak. Now you can see why it's not possible to remember a new word after seeing it just once. You need to see or hear every word multiple times and let it progress through all the phases until you reach phase 5. You should be happy not only when you learn a new word perfectly but also when you move from one phase to another. Each time this happens, you are closer to your ultimate goal, using the word effortlessly in everyday communication. All of this is interesting to me. I didn't know about these phases, but it all makes sense. It has also happened to me that I looked up a new word in the dictionary, but just 2 minutes later, I forgot what it was and had to look it up again. I felt stupid for not remembering the word. Now I understand that it's absolutely okay not to remember a word the first time I see it. I need several encounters with the word before I can use it well. After school, I go to my football training. Our coach tells us that there will be a match on Saturday. The school team will play against another school team from Cambridge. Our coach invites me to come and play for the school team. I am very happy and looking forward to the match on Saturday. Lesson 9: How to improve listening. The next day, I return to school. One of the students has an important question. He wants to know how to improve his listening skills and what the best approach is. Our teacher replies, "Thank you for your question. Good listening skills are crucial for effective communication. If you don't understand what people are saying, it will be difficult for you to converse with them." There are a lot of materials on the internet for students of English, but some students may have difficulty finding the right listening materials. Let's take a look at what you should listen to. There are 2 types of materials you can use: audio and films. These are quite different, and different rules apply to them. Listening to audio. When you listen to audio, you should know 95% of the words or more. If the audio contains a lot of new words, read the text first, if possible, and make sure you know all the words. When you practice listening, you are focusing on extracting information from spoken language rather than trying to learn new vocabulary. Of course, you might learn new words occasionally, but that is not the main goal. Concentrate on understanding the information conveyed in spoken English. It is important to use materials that match your level of English. For example, you can use books in simplified English that come with an audio recording. I highly recommend these books. They are fantastic because you can choose a book that fits your level of English. Watching films and videos. The second type of material for listening practice includes films and videos on platforms like YouTube. These are also excellent resources, and you can start using them once you know around 2,000 words in English. Here's how to approach watching a film. First viewing, watch it with subtitles so you can grasp the overall story. Subsequent viewings, watch the film without subtitles. If you enjoy the film, consider watching it multiple times. Each time you watch, you will understand more. It's also beneficial to watch videos on the internet about topics that interest you. For instance, if you enjoy nature, you could watch documentaries about it. Reality shows are also easier to understand than films or documentaries because their structure is usually consistent. Daily listening practice. Aim for at least 30 minutes of listening each day. The more you listen, the faster you will understand more words. Always focus on what you already comprehend, even if it's just 10% at the beginning. It's easy to become demotivated by realizing how much you don't understand yet. Instead, celebrate every new sentence you grasp. Listening is one of the easiest ways to learn. You don't have to do anything other than listen. Did this information help you? Yes, says one student. Thank you. The topic of listening is very interesting for me. Now I know what to do to improve my listening skills. When you want to be good at listening, aim for 30 minutes of practice every day. Lesson 10. What you need before you start. On Friday, we have an engaging conversation in class. Our teacher poses a question. What was your first reason for learning English? Do you remember the moment when you started learning English? When did you become really interested in the language? I share. I remember the moment I became interested in English. Our teacher asks, "Can you tell us what happened?" My journey with English. I reply, first, I must say that English wasn't always my favorite subject. I started learning it in high school, and initially, it was very difficult for me. I didn't understand the structure of the language. It seemed illogical. I struggled to remember words and learn grammar, but it was hard. By the time I finished high school, I was still only a beginner and believed I would never learn this language properly. I thought English just wasn't for me. Then something changed. I've always loved music, and when I was 20, I began listening to the Beatles. I wanted to understand their lyrics, so I started translating their songs. Slowly, I began to understand more and more. Then, I met two ladies from England on a train. We had a simple conversation that helped me tremendously. From that moment on, I worked on my English almost every day, and I kept getting better. Eventually, I decided to go to England to improve my English further. Our teacher thanks me for sharing my story and adds, "There's something very interesting about your journey. Initially, you lacked motivation to learn English, but later, you found motivation in wanting to understand songs. This shows how important motivation is. When you have it, you can succeed. When you don't, it's very hard to be successful. Class motivations. Our teacher then asks everyone in the class about their motivations for learning English. The stories are fascinating. One girl wants to read historical books in their original English. Another student aspires to be a professional tennis coach in England and wishes to speak perfect English before starting his career. A woman in the class wants to work for a large international company and needs English for her job. I noticed that everyone has some form of motivation to use English in real life or to gain information from books. At the end of the lesson, our teacher asks us if we enjoy English. I respond, I didn't like English in high school, but now I like it a lot. I see how useful it is to know this language. Our teacher emphasizes, this is another important factor when learning a new language. It helps to enjoy something related to English, whether it's people, music, culture, or history. If you like English, it becomes easier to learn. Building vocabulary. To communicate effectively in English, it's beneficial to know 3,000 words or more. If you don't enjoy English, it becomes more challenging to find the time to practice enough to reach that level. I agree with my teacher. Now, I not only enjoy the Beatles but also appreciate my teacher and my boss, who is English. I also enjoy English humor, making it much easier for me to find time to practice English every day. On Saturday, I play football for my school team. We have some excellent players, and we win 3-2. We are all very happy and head to the pub after the match to celebrate our victory. When you want to learn English, having motivation to use it every day is essential. Lesson 11, How to Learn 3,000 Words. During the next lesson, one of the students asks our teacher, "You told us that it's good to know 3,000 words. Where can I find these 3,000 words? Which are the most important for me to learn?" My teacher replies, "You can Google a list of the 3,000 most frequent words in English, but such a list will not help you much. When you start learning words from this list, you will often learn them outside of context. You'll learn words that are not connected with any story, and you won't understand what other words are associated with these words and sentences. As a result, you may only retain these words in your short-term memory. This system works well for basic words that describe things and people around us. Basic vocabulary. For example, words like mother, father, apple, blue, orange, dog, cat, book, car, house, city, boy, girl, water, cinema, or paper are easy to visualize. When you learn the word dog, you immediately know what it is. You have a clear idea of its meaning. However, when you try to learn words like appreciate or suppose, this method doesn't work as effectively. Many students start their studies by using lists of words. This approach may work at the beginning, leading them to believe they can learn English this way. However, they don't realize that once they reach a vocabulary level of 1,000 words, they need to adopt a different system. Learning through context. To learn words at a higher level, you should learn them from whole sentences. Understanding the meaning of a word in the context of a sentence helps you retain it much better. While you can learn words from lists, there is usually a limit to how far this method can take you, which tends to be around 1,000 words. Additionally, this way of learning is very slow. There are much better methods we've already discussed, such as reading. For beginners, the best book to read is Robinson Crusoe in Simple English. The importance of repetition. There's also an interesting rule that applies here. Every word that is important to you will reappear in your life again and again until you learn it. This process is similar to how we learn our own language as children. We don't study from lists of words, we use the language, and important words keep coming up until one day we understand what they mean. For example, the verb Google is a new word in many languages. We learn this word by using it in context rather than from a list. When you heard the word Google for the first time, you probably didn't know what it meant. But after hearing it repeatedly, it became familiar to you. Forget about lists of words. Learn new vocabulary by reading stories and other interesting texts. When you use English frequently every day, you will soon know 3,000 words. Does this make sense? Yes, says a student. Thank you. Gaining confidence at work. After school, I go to my job. I already know my responsibilities well, and things start to feel automatic. I'm happy that I understand my customers. The conversations are usually quite similar. Our customers typically want coffee or sandwiches, so the vocabulary is often the same or very similar. My confidence grows, and occasionally, I start having longer conversations with our customers. However, then something surprising happens. Lesson 12: How to improve your accent. On Tuesday, while I'm at work, something interesting occurs. Two customers come into our cafe, a husband and wife. The man starts speaking to me. I realize he is speaking English, but I don't understand him. I think he wants something we don't have, so I call my boss for help. She speaks with the man and successfully takes his order for 2 coffees and 2 of our regular sandwiches. After they leave, I approach my boss and apologize for not understanding the man. She reassures me, saying, "It's okay." This can happen when people speak with an accent that is new to us. My teacher tells me that the couple was from Scotland. The next day, I go to school and share this story with her. I expressed that I felt really stupid for not understanding our customer and that I wasn't sure if my English was good enough for my job. Doubts began to creep in. Although my boss was okay with it, I still needed some help from my teacher. I wanted to know what I could do in such situations. Understanding accents. My teacher responds, "I understand that you are used to the English spoken in London, but you aren't accustomed to the Scottish accent. Your ears aren't trained to listen to it yet. All you need to do is listen more to Scottish English. You need to train your ears to this accent as well. What happened to you can happen to anyone. When you already speak English at some level and then go to a country where people speak with a different accent, you shouldn't be surprised if you don't understand. It's okay, and it usually takes about 2 weeks to get used to a new accent. Don't think there's something wrong with you when you don't understand it. With practice, you can train your ears to any accent. I ask, so what can I do to understand the Scottish accent? I don't live in Scotland. My teacher suggests, you can watch films with Scottish English or watch sitcoms from Scotland, and soon you'll understand better. I thank her for the advice. A new experience at work. After school, I return to work. At around 4 p.m., 2 interesting customers come into our cafe. This time, they are foreigners wanting to buy coffee. They are 2 ladies, and it's clear their English is very basic. My boss serves them, and when she realizes they don't speak English well, she does something very interesting. She simplifies her language, using very short sentences with only 3 or 4 words. I can see that the ladies understand her. They buy 2 coffees, 2 sandwiches, and 2 cakes. Both the customers and my boss are happy. After the ladies leave, I tell my boss that it was impressive how she adjusted her English so they could understand her. My boss replies, sometimes, I have to speak in very simple English. It doesn't matter if the customers speak English well or not, they are our customers, and we have to do everything possible to make them feel comfortable. If they know they can speak English here, they will come to our cafe every day. I think to myself that my boss is a good businesswoman. She does everything to make our customers happy. It's true that we have a lot of customers, and our cafe is busy every day. Lesson 13. Communicating at different levels. The next day at school, I tell my teacher about my experience with my boss and the 2 ladies who struggled with English. Our teacher responds, "Great. Your boss must be a very clever young lady. It's true that you can communicate with everybody. Even people who speak English very well can have conversations with those who are just beginning their journey." Today, we will discuss different levels of English and what you should be able to do at each level. Level 1, 1,000 words. We start with the lowest level of 1,000 words. At this level, students can speak about basic everyday topics. The speaking ability is limited, but it is possible to communicate slowly for a short time with people who want to engage with you. Your sentences are typically short, usually around 4 words. If others also speak in short sentences, you can have a basic conversation. Level 2, 2,000 words. When students progress to a higher level of 2,000 words, conversations become easier, and sentences are longer. This is the level most of you in this class are currently at. You should be able to discuss many aspects of your life, including family, hobbies, jobs, and travel. However, you might encounter difficulties when trying to engage in deeper conversations on certain topics. Nevertheless, this level is usually sufficient for everyday use of English. Level 3, 3,000 words. To have deeper conversations on a variety of topics, it's beneficial to know 3,000 words. Your goal as an English student who wants to speak well should be to learn 3,000 words. Of course, you can learn more than that. The more words you know, the easier it will be to communicate in English. However, 3,000 words is generally enough for discussing almost everything. I think the two ladies at our cafe knew about 1,000 words. My boss adjusted her language to their level and managed to have a basic conversation with them. A positive interaction. After school, I go to work again, and the two ladies return to our cafe, bringing two friends with them. It's my turn to serve them. I speak to them in simple, short sentences, and they understand me. This is great. They tell me they are tourists from Japan and that they enjoy our cafe because people understand them here. Overcoming shyness in speaking English. On Thursday, I go to school again. One student has a very interesting question. She says, "I am very shy when I have to speak English. Can you help me overcome my shyness?" Our teacher responds, "It's true that when we use foreign languages, it's natural to feel uncertain or shy. We are doing something we're not perfect at, and the possibility of making a mistake is high." I was also very shy when I learned foreign languages. I remember how afraid I was to make mistakes. When I did, I felt stupid and sometimes even blushed. Now, it's different. I use languages for communication. I care only about that. You know that I am learning Spanish these days. Embarrassing situations can happen, but they can't stop me from using Spanish. It's true that sometimes I still feel shy when I have to speak Spanish, and I occasionally blush, but I don't care much about it. It's a natural human feeling, and it never lasts forever. I continue using Spanish because I know that only by using it can I improve. Embracing the learning process. She continues, "I also try to see things as they are. I am a student, and I am on the way to good Spanish. It is not possible to skip several levels in one day. A beginner can't become a perfect speaker in 1 hour. I also see my value to the people around me. When I can speak some Spanish, I have something to offer those who speak Spanish. You should see the same when you speak English. Being able to have a conversation in English is great. Look at what you already know. You know 2,000 words. You have gone from 0 to 2,000 words. Appreciate that." Some students feel that to know English means to speak like a native speaker, with perfect pronunciation and grammar, and to speak without any mistakes. They think that if they aren't doing that, then they don't know English. They feel embarrassed because they are not perfect. These students are very hard on themselves, and it's unnecessary. You are great because you already speak some English. Continue working on it, and your shyness will gradually fade away, our teacher advises. Deciding to be brave. I like what our teacher tells us. I am also sometimes shy. I know that I should practice speaking a lot, but in certain situations, I hesitate because I don't want to look stupid, so I don't speak as much as I should. I decide to be a bit braver in these situations and use them to practice more. Then one student speaks up, saying, "Sometimes I want to say something, but I don't know the word I want to use." Then I stop, and I don't know what to do. I feel very stupid. The next time I can speak English, I don't want to because I don't want to be in that embarrassing situation again. Can you help me with this? Learning to describe. Our teacher replies, when you start to speak English, you have to be prepared for one thing. There will be moments when you don't know a word you want to say. In such situations, you need to learn how to describe the word. This ability is very important when learning a new language. Since you are not a native English speaker, you will probably never know the same amount of words as you do in your native language. However, you can describe almost every word. You just need to train the skill. She provides an example. If you don't know how to say key, you can describe it as a small thing for opening a door. You also describe words in your native language without realizing it. If you don't know the word for something, you just describe it so that the other person understands what it is. You can do the same in English, but you need to practice this ability. Thinking aloud is a very good technique to help you describe things well. Use thinking aloud every day, and your ability to describe will improve. Lesson 15. Who is talented? The next day is Friday, and I go to school again. I am happy to be in this class, not only because of our teacher but also because there are students from many different countries. Some students are from Europe, some from South America, and there is one student from Japan and another from South Korea. This diversity is beneficial for me because the students don't speak my native language. Practicing English in class. When I speak to my classmates, I have to use only English, which is very good for my practice. Today, we have another new student in our class. Her name is Sophia, and she is from Argentina. At the beginning of the lesson, Sophia says that she thinks she doesn't have a talent for studying languages, but she wants to work hard to improve. Our teacher asks her, "Why do you think you don't have a talent?" Sophia answers, "I think I don't have a talent because my sister learns English very fast, but for me, it is difficult." A class discussion on talent. Our teacher then asks everyone in the class, "Do you think you have a talent for learning languages? Please put your hand up if you believe you have a talent." I look around the class, and nobody puts their hands up. My teacher smiles and says, "Now I want to tell you something. Many people think that you need to have a talent if you really want to learn a new language. I agree, yes, you need to have some talent to learn a new language. But I also believe that you already have a talent for learning languages." She continues, "Why do you have this talent? You have a talent because you already learned one language, which is your native language. You are successful at learning your native language, and you speak it fluently. All people who are able to learn their native language have a talent for learning languages." Understanding comparison and talent. Why do many students believe that they are not talented? She asks. The reason is that there are people who are super talented. Yes, it is true. These super talented people remember new words very quickly and for a longer time. Maybe you know these people, perhaps it is someone at your work or in your family. There are not many of these people, but they exist. I believe that this can be Sophia's sister as well. Learning a new language is fun for these people, and they can do it easily, our teacher explains. Sophia agrees, saying, "It is true that my sister is really better than everybody else." Our teacher continues, "It is true that these super talented people exist. It is a fact, and we cannot do anything about it. This is not a problem. The problem is that we compare ourselves to these people. If we don't learn as fast as they do, we think that we are not talented." Embracing your own talent. I want to ask you for one thing. Please do not compare yourself to these super talented people. Yes, they are lucky, and they have an advantage, but you can be lucky too. You are super talented at doing other things. Maybe you are more talented than others when you learn to sing, swim, play tennis, count numbers, cook, or repair cars. People are not all the same. This is the beauty of this world. Now you can believe that you are also talented. Maybe not super talented, but talented. When you believe that you are talented, learning English will be easier for you. These words from our teacher are very helpful for us. I know that I'm talented at playing football and tennis, and now I realize that I am also talented at learning English. Looking forward to the school party. What is also great is that there is a school party in the evening. I really look forward to this party. I know that some girls from our class are going, and I hope that our new student Sophia is also going to the party. I have known Sophia for only one day, but I like her a lot. Lesson 16, How to Speak Fluently. On Monday, I go to school again. Our teacher asks us how the Friday school party was. One student says that the party was great. We had a lot of drinks and a lot of fun. The girls from our class enjoyed the party as well. I enjoyed the party a lot because Sophia was there. I could talk to her, and we danced together. It was all very nice. There were also 2 boys from my football team at the party. These boys were from Brazil. Their English was simple, they could speak only in short sentences, but they were extremely funny. At the party, they made a lot of jokes about life in England, about other players from our team, and about girls from their class. Everybody laughed. Their sentences were very short, with only 3 or 4 words, but they were able to speak fluently. Observations on fluency. When we speak about the party, I tell my teacher, it was really interesting to see that somebody who doesn't know many words can already speak fluently. I know some students who are at a much higher level and have a hard time speaking. My teacher responds, "This is really interesting. I can tell you that the 2 boys from your football team showed you what all students should do. The boys used what they knew. They cared only about what was really important, communication. The path to fluency." Then one girl asks, "So what should we do if we want to speak English fluently? Should we go to parties and make jokes?" My teacher replies, "First, let me explain what fluent speaking is. Many students think that fluent speaking is fast speaking with a lot of words and perfect grammar, but there is a better, more correct definition of fluent speaking. Fluent speaking is speaking without long pauses. Some people can do it with 1,000 words, some with 2,000 words, but there are also people who know 3,000 words and aren't able to speak fluently. If you want to speak fluently, you have to practice speaking. There is no other way to improve your fluency. Speaking is a physical activity. It is like playing a musical instrument. If you want to play the violin, you need to train the connection between your brain and the muscles in your fingers. When you want to speak well, you need to train the connection between your brain and the muscles in your mouth. If the connection between your brain and your mouth is not often trained, you can't speak fluently. No matter how many words you know, you can't complain that you can't speak fluently if you don't. Practice speaking often. You can have this experience. You meet a foreigner who wants to speak with you in English. You want to say ideas which are in your head, but you aren't able to do it. You can't find the right words. Then when you end the conversation and play it back in your head, you realize that you actually know the right words, but the conversation is already finished. Why do you experience such situations? Because you have little training. Your speaking isn't automatic. It is not automatic because you don't practice it often enough. When you want to speak fluently, I recommend speaking for at least 30 minutes a day. You can speak to a real person. If you don't have a real person to speak to, you can do thinking aloud. It is necessary to really think aloud and not only think in your head. You need to practice the connection between your brain and your muscles. You can do this by thinking aloud. Does it make sense? Yes, says the girl. Lesson 17. What is the best school? At the next lesson, one of the students asks an interesting question. She says, next week I am going home. I would like to continue studying, and in my country I don't know how to choose a good school there. Could you help me? How do I know if the school is good or not? My teacher says this is a very good question. I believe that when you read, listen, and speak a lot, you don't have to go to a school. You will learn English naturally by using it. But if you want to pay for your education, a good teacher can help you speed up the process of learning. After 5 lessons at the new school, do the test again and you can see how many new words you learn. If you are happy with your progress, you can continue paying for your lessons. It is also important that you enjoy every lesson and you look forward to the next one. It is important to enjoy every activity which you do with English. This is great news for me. I didn't know that it was possible to have a private lesson with my teacher soon. I am also going back to my country and I want to have private lessons with my teacher. Lesson 18. What to do when you need help. It is Wednesday and I go to school again. At the beginning of the next lesson, Monica has a question for my teacher. She asks her, how do you know all of this? Where did you learn information about studying languages? Our teacher says there are many ways to get knowledge on how to learn and teach languages. The first one is experience. I have been teaching for more than 7 years. I have many years of experience. When I teach you, I observe what works and what doesn't, and then I use only things which help. I also study materials about learning languages on the internet. When I find something interesting, I test it in one of my classes. If it works, I use it in all other classes. There's also another way I get information. It is usually during moments when I have a question but I can't find an answer. During these moments I go and visit my magic park and I get the answer there. Monica tells my teacher, this is interesting. How do you get the answers in the magic park? Where is the magic park? Can we go there too? My teacher says, what I am going to tell you is not real to everybody. If it sounds crazy, I am sorry, but you asked for it, so I am giving you the answer. I believe that if you have a question and you ask the universe for an answer, the answer comes. When I have a question, I go to the magic park. I sit on a bench, I relax my body, I slow down my breathing, and I try to free my mind. Then I ask the question. This is all. Sometimes the answer comes as a new idea in my head. Sometimes somebody who I speak to later tells me something which helps me get the answer. Sometimes I watch an interesting video on the internet and I find the answer there. Sometimes the answers come the next day in the morning when I wake up. What is interesting is the fact that the answers keep coming. I am so grateful for them. As I said, you don't have to believe what I am telling you, but this is what I do and how it works for me. The park is not very far from here. It is a 10-minute walk. A lot of people go to the park to relax. It is beautiful. It has a very nice atmosphere. I call it a magic park because it is magical for me. My teacher's words are very interesting for me. Lesson 19 Overview, Effectively Learning English. I was unaware that individuals can ask the universe for guidance. Perhaps in the future, when I have intriguing questions, I could visit the park and seek an answer. The following day, a girl posed an interesting question to our teacher. She expressed, "Thank you for sharing insights on how to learn English. Could you provide us with a summary of some daily practices that will help us learn English effectively?" The teacher replied, "Sure, I will attempt to give you a straightforward summary. To speak English well, you should do 3 things: read, listen, and speak. It's essential to dedicate approximately equal time to all 3 activities. If you neglect one, your progress will slow down." Daily English practice. Based on my experience, I believe it is crucial to engage with English every day for at least 90 minutes. You don't necessarily have to study, but you should actively use English. Now, I will dive into the specifics of each activity. 1. Reading. Aim to read for a minimum of 30 minutes daily. This is the baseline. Don't read solely to learn English. Read to gather new information or enjoy a captivating story. I understand that I emphasize this repeatedly, but it truly is vital. 2. Listening. You should also listen to English for at least 30 minutes each day. It should be something that piques your interest. Enjoy the information you receive. Start with simple audiobooks or news, then gradually progress to more complex books and news. Once you know around 2,000 words, you can begin watching films and videos online. 3. Speaking. Lastly, speaking is key. You're already aware of how crucial it is to engage in conversation while learning English. Aim to speak for at least 30 minutes daily. Ideally, talk to real people. This could be your teacher, classmates, colleagues, or friends. Try to connect with someone who is at your English level or slightly above, and converse with them. If you find yourself without anyone to converse with, utilizing shadowing and thinking aloud can provide substantial speaking practice. Personally, I employ these techniques frequently while learning Spanish, as I lack native Spanish speakers in my daily routine. Improving your Spanish can be straightforward. All it requires is reading, listening, and speaking. "Thank you for your insight," says the girl. "This is precisely what I needed to hear." I'm also grateful that this question was posed, especially since it's my last day of school. I've gained a lot from these past 4 weeks with my teacher. As my teacher inquires if I'd like to share anything with my classmates, I express my happiness for being part of this class and for meeting wonderful individuals. I share my email address, inviting them to reach out if they wish. After enthusiastically saying goodbye, I feel a bit sad but recognize it's time to move on with my life. I can't remain in school indefinitely. The responsibility now lies with me to enhance my English skills. A year has passed since my last day at school, and I've incorporated English into my everyday life. With the techniques from my teacher, I've expanded my vocabulary to 4,000 words. What an accomplishment! I've also embarked on a new chapter as an English teacher for beginners, who only know about 500 words. This is beneficial for me, as I acknowledge the need for considerable practice before advancing to higher levels of teaching. A significant advantage I have is the invaluable instruction I received from my exceptional teacher in London. I'm committed to imparting everything she taught me to my students because I want them to thrive as well. Thank you for tuning in.